So there you have it, folks. We now know the 24 teams that will make up the 2019-2020 League One season. But what do the bookmakers think? Who do they think will go out on top and get themselves promoted to the Championship? Let's take a little look. That's right, folks, back once again with another video, this time looking at the 2019-2020 League One campaign, and we'll get to that in just 1 second. If you're new to the channel, smash your subscribe button to get bang up to date with all things League One related, Blackburn Rovers related, world football related. We've got it all here under one roof, and what we're going to do in this video is take a look at what the bookmakers think will happen in the brand new 2019-2020 League One campaign. Now, these are not my odds. These are odds taken from the bookmaker William Hill. Now, I'm not sponsored by them whatsoever. If you're watching William Hill, I'm open for offers, but this is what they think will happen on the 29th of May, who they think will go out and be promoted to the Championship for the 2020-2021 campaign. Now, what we're going to do as on the channel in a month's time, we're going to take a look back at these odds and compare them to the odds that are currently in place on the 29th of June, and then we'll do the same again in July to see how those odds have changed. Obviously, managers will come, players will go, all that kind of good stuff, and obviously the fixtures will be released mid-June as well. So that's also going to have an effect on the outcome of these odds. So it's going to be interesting to see how they play out. So let's take a look at it, waste no more time, and jump into it and take a look at what William Hill thinks will happen in the League One. So let's kick it off with the teams that they believe will struggle and probably get themselves relegated. And I have clustered these teams into sections, and we kick it off with these bad boys. Newly promoted Bury, Gillingham are in there, 60-61, and Accrington Stanley. Who are they? They actually finished quite high in the league last season, so I'm quite surprised to see them as low as this. I don't expect them to be knocking on the door of promotion, but I do expect them to be sort of towards mid-table. So I'm a little bit, I don't agree with that one. As for Bury, financial mess going on right there over in Bury. Obviously, they got themselves promoted, and this past season. Things are looking good, but then obviously the statements coming out from the club and the players and all this kind of stuff, so it's a bit of a mess right now, so it doesn't bode well for them going into this season. They could lose all their players, they could lose a whole bunch of stuff, staff and all this kind of stuff, so it's worrying times. So I expect those odds to probably worsen as well. I think they'll be one of the favourites to go down on their own merit and break away. As for Gillingham, not too, Tom Eaves was linked with Rovers in the course of last season, scored a bucket total of goals, and they also had a good season as well. So I'm quite surprised to see them as low as that. Into the next cluster, we have a whole bunch of teams here. We have AFC Wimbledon and Wycombe Wanderers with Ackham Fenway leading the line. 50-1 odds on those two to get themselves promoted as champions. And then we have Southend United, who had another terrible season last season. But prior to that season, when we were in the League One, they were knocking on the door. They were in the playoff talk as well. So it's quite surprising to see how far they've fallen down the pecking order. The same can be said about 33-1 outsiders Shrewsbury Town. Now again, go back 2 seasons, they were knocking on the door for automatic promotion to the Championship with Tisdale, or whatever his name is, the coach who's now gone to manage Scunthorpe or somebody, I don't know. He's gone off to League Two. But anyway, so yeah, Shrewsbury, well outsiders, as well as Rochdale and Bristol Rovers. 3 teams that probably... Rochdale, again, they've lost Keith Hill, ex-Rover, last season. They were struggling and they turned the corner around. But they've been knocking on the door of top 10 finishes the past 4 or 5 years. So, to be honest with you, I'm quite surprised to see them struggle last season. So I don't expect them to have too much trouble. They're one of the teams that make up League One. They make up League One. They're not ones that are going to go up, and they're not ones that are going to go down to the next division. So yeah, it's probably about right for Rochdale, but maybe a little bit shorter odds on those. Bristol Rovers, not too sure about them. They can be a difficult side as well, but recently I think they're going to lose their captain. Tom Lockyer has been linked with Championship clubs as well. Yeah, so Wimbledon, I think they also got themselves promoted as well. So we're just... No, or did they? I can't remember. Anyway, it's the cluster of yellow teams. These are all 25-1 outsiders as well. We have Bolton Wanderers in there, which is a surprise. Obviously, a lot of junk going on with them. I think in administration, they're going to start with a 10-point deduction or 15-point deduction. So already they're going to be bottom. And they've got a lot of work to do to make up amends. So... Yeah, they're not going to be knocking on the door. I don't believe. If anything, they're going to have a tremendous season and get into the playoffs. I think that's their best bet. But they're starting with a handicap. MK Dons are in there 25-1, and newly promoted Tranmere Rovers with Mike Dean in the audience, in the crowd cheering them on, 25-1. And then Blackpool as well, obviously former Premier League team. Blackpool obviously fallen from grace big time. They're also in that cluster of 25-1. Out of those, I'd say Tranmere are probably the best suited. I think they've obviously trying to get themselves back up to the second tier of English football, because they were there for a good bunch of time in the 90s, and then they just fell out of it. And remember the day when John Aldridge was scoring all the goals for Tranmere, to keep them in the back in the day, the old Division 1. Or the old Division 2, if you go back all the way back. Anyway, jibber jabber. Blackpool, yeah, they finished pretty decently, pretty strongly as well. So I'd say that's about right for Bolton, though. I think they're going to be more in the red section, 33-1. They're going to be lower bottom if they don't get this shit sorted out. If they have a good pre-season and bring in some players and strengthen their side despite the mess that they're in, then maybe they could be into the top middle. Anyway, kicking off further into the yellow cluster, we have a whole bunch of teams here. We have 7 teams here. Starting with the 20-1 outsiders: Oxford United, Doncaster, Coventry City, Fleetwood Town, and Burton Albion. Now, obviously, Burton Albion were nowhere near playoff talk this season, but obviously they were relegated with Sunderland. They were relegated with Barnsley on their season, so they should be in the mix for sort of top 10 as well. They should have all the facilities. I think Nigel Clough is still manager, so no sort of disruption with that. Then we have Fleetwood Town with Joey Barton. Obviously, not a big fan of him myself. But he did an okay job for them, and I was actually quite surprised to see them how far they finished. Coventry City, obviously, they've got their own off the field matters as well, with their ground share or the ground status or whatever. I think that's finally been figured out with Birmingham doing a ground share with them. So they also finished the season quite strongly, and again, it'll depend on if they can keep their manager, if they can keep the key players that got themselves just into the playoff reckoning last season. Then we have Doncaster Rovers, who were in the playoffs as well, 20-1 for them, and then Oxford United. I don't know where they finished, to be honest with you. I'm not going to lie, I don't know where they finished. I'm going to guess top half, but ultimately 20-1 for them. Then we have newly promoted Lincoln. They are 16-1 alongside Peterborough, and Peterborough also, again, just finished outside the playoffs, and they were in that talk for a good bunch of it. I think Darren Ferguson is back as manager. Obviously, he seems to be the man who can get the best out of them, and maybe next year is the season for them. But Lincoln, yeah, there could be a dark horse to go, and they might do a Luton and do a back-to-back promotion sort of thing. They've got the fan base. They've got it seems to be going right for them at the moment. So I'd keep an eye on those. Coventry as well, dark horse as well. Fleetwood Town. Hopefully, I don't want to see Barton up in the championship with these boys. I don't want to see him in the championship whatsoever. But anyway, let's kick it on further into the top 3. I've kind of kept the last guy blank, but we probably know who it is. Rotherham, Portsmouth, and Ipswich are the next cluster. They're going to duke it out for probably the second automatic spot. Ipswich are 5-1, Portsmouth 8-1, and Rotherham are currently 9-1. Now Rotherham, they could lose a whole bunch of players. Sammy Ajayi, Will Folks, 2 of their hotly tipped players to make moves this summer. If they stick around, I think they'll have a better chance at it. Portsmouth, again, they've got a lot of good players that are touting, some interested from Championship clubs and maybe even some lower Premier League clubs. Jamal Lowe, the defenders, some of the key defenders that they've got back there as well. Some of those, maybe even some of the strikers. But yeah, Portsmouth, unlucky. I would love to have seen them back, but to be honest with you, I'm happy that Charlton made it, even though that we're probably going to lose out and not get Patrick Bauer, who was a fantastic defender, especially scoring. He's cult hero now, get themselves back in the championship. And obviously, top dog, it is Sunderland till we die. That's right, the Netflix legends. Will it be third season lucky with that series and get themselves promoted on this occasion? 7-2 at the moment to go up as champions into the championship. I think, depending on what goes on with the manager, if they change manager, I think they're probably less. Those odds are going to change now, because obviously, to be honest with you, I think it's a bit of a failure for Jack Ross not to do this at the first. They should have ran away with this. I actually predicted them to finish 4th last season and struggle and perhaps get through by the playoffs. But yeah, I do agree with that. They should be favourites. They have the fan base, facilities, and everything. It's what's going to happen this season. The second season in this division is quite interesting. They've got some big time players on there, McCready, the Catamols, all that kind of stuff. What's going to happen with those? Are they going to stick around? The wages, all that kind of, those things kind of concern me. But they do have the fans that can kind of compensate for those wages. But yeah, interesting season ahead for Sunderland, and if there is a second season of that Netflix thing, I'm looking forward to that bad boy. But those are the Ipswich Town. I don't want to not say anything about Ipswich Town. I think they've with Lambert in charge. That's dodgy ground there. It's dodgy ground. I think they'll be in playoff talk. They could do a Sunderland next year and get to the final and choke with Lambert. I'm just saying. It's going to be it's quite an interesting league when you look at those teams. When you think about a few years back, Blackburn in the Premier League, Ipswich were a Premier League side, Portsmouth been in the Premier League side, Sunderland obviously Premier League side. Who else we got in there? Obviously Wimbledon, whatever. Back in the day, Bolton as well. It's Coventry. It's very. I love English football. I think it's amazing, but it's the best leagues in the world. I think it's so open. You can see some crazy stuff, and I expect to see some crazy stuff in the Championship, but I also expect to see some crazy stuff in League One. And I say, if I'm going to predict a dark horse at the moment, according to these odds, I'm going to say Lincoln are your dark horse, and maybe even Coventry City to go out and get themselves promoted. Anyway, folks, that is the current odds as of Wednesday, the 29th of May, by William Hill online bookmakers. I'm not getting sponsored by them whatsoever, but if you are listening, I am open to offers. What we're going to do is we're going to come back in a month's time and see how those odds have changed, if they've shortened, if they've lengthened, see if Ipswich, if they bring in some players, if Lambert stays in charge, if Jack Ross stays in charge, what's going to happen. A month is a very, very long time in football. Loads of things can happen. What's going to happen with Bolton? Are they going to get the shit together? What's going to happen with Bury down the bottom? All those things could change the odds, as well as the fixture list as well. Sunderland could start with a really tricky match against Ipswich. It'll change those odds as well. So you never know. You never know what's going to happen. So we'll do that. We'll do it again in July to see, and we'll compare throughout those 3 months. Let's see what those are. But anyway, what I want to know from you guys is what you think will happen in these very, very early door predictions. What do you think? Do you agree with these? Do you think Sunderland will walk it? Do you think Peterborough will come out and surprise us all? What about Tranmere? Can they make it back-to-back promotions for them? Put your own thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. And while I still have you, check out the description down below. There's links to my other social media platforms are in there. Twitter, Facebook, they're both in there. And of course, my hotly released Patreon page. If you want to become a member of my VIP exclusive gang, hit that link there. But I also want to bring your attention to the Twitch link, which I'll be going live in the month of June into July, doing live predictions of the Copa America, the Gold Cup, and the African Cup of Nations as and when. They'll be live on Twitch. If you can't make those live sessions, I'll hopefully be putting those videos up onto YouTube for you guys to check that out anyway. But if you want to have a good old natter about football, you could talk about League One, you could talk about Blackburn Rovers, you could talk about whatever you like. That's the place to be at the moment. And then, we'll look forward to seeing you then. Anyway, I'm going to get out of it. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash a thumbs up. And if you're new, smash a subscribe. I'll be back again pretty soon with some more videos as it rains videos here at Blackburn Overseas. Thanks again for watching. Please like, share, and most importantly, hit the subscribe button to keep you bang up to date with all things Blackburn Rovers related, Championship related, football related. We've got it all covered right under one roof. And while I still have you, please be sure to check out some of the old videos scattered along here. I hope.